Hello, friends, and welcome again. Hello, Lou.
How are we doing today?
Good. Uh, we're using a different instrument today to broadcast this to you. Lou and I were having some technical issues before,
Yeah, it was
so
involuntary, right?
involuntary. So I hope this is working good for you, friends. So today we're going to be doing chapter 15, verse number 8, which goes, when the Lord acquires a body, and also when he leaves it, he, the Lord, takes these and goes, just like the wind carries scents from their origins.
Hmm.
So, this is a question that many people have over and over again to say, what exactly happens when a person dies or when a person is born? What makes this entity that we talked before about how spirit, the life force, Brahman, Atma, enters matter. We said Purusha and Prakriti, and how Purusha enters the Prakriti and a body, and then a Jiva or life form is formed. What we never talked about is what does how does the sense organs work? How does the organs of action start to work in a newborn baby? What happens when a person dies to those sense organs, the organs of actions, the mind, the intellect, the chitta, the ahankar, all of that? We didn't talk about that. So that's what this verse is about. You will notice, friends, that by the time you finish the Gita, you have a good scientific understanding of everything that you could ask for about life, the body, and the whole universe. And that's what this is talking about today. So when he says takes these, he says he takes these and goes. What does he mean takes these? What does the Lord or Brahman or Atman take? Typically, colloquially, we say the soul leaves the body, right?
Yes.
Here he's saying the Lord leaves. What does he take, the Lord, Brahman, Atman, when it leaves the body? And technically, since the Atman, Brahman is everywhere, omnipresent, it doesn't really leave. It's not like it flies out of the body. The body just drops and the Atman is steady. It's like an aquarium with fish around it. The water never moves. It's just that the fish are moving around it. So the Atman takes the subtle and the causal bodies. When the Lord, when Atman drops a gross body, the Atman takes along with it the subtle and causal bodies and carries them from one gross body to the next. Let's dissect that. We learned earlier that Purusha and Prakriti merge together to form an individual, a jiva, whether it be an animal, an insect, or a human being. Prakriti, we said matter, the body, has 24 components. These components are there so that the body, Atman, through the body, can enjoy the world through the sense organs and to deal with the world as a doer. So in verse 7, the verse before this, we saw that Krishna was saying that when you are in the body, you're both a doer, that means you do things, actions, and you're an enjoyer. You enjoy things. So you have, I have three bodies. The first body is the gross body that we're all aware of. This is the gross body.
Mhm.
In Sanskrit, it's known as Sthul, Sthul, Sthul. It is made up of 5 gross elements. We went through this before. The second is the subtle body. The subtle body is made up of the same 5 elements, except that they're the subtler forms of these 5 elements. We talked about this earlier too. In that subtle body are clumped together the sense organs, the organs of action, prana. I don't think we've talked at length about prana, but it's something that people who do yoga here in the United States hear about all the time. It's basically the metabolism and life force that makes us keep going. People often misunderstand it and call prana breath. Breath is only one part of prana. Prana mind, the intellect, all of this is settled body, okay? Sense organs, organs of action, prana, mind, intellect, mana, buddhi, chitta, which is the memory and the faculties of having stored everything in there, and ahankar or ego. This is known as the inner equipment of your gross body. Gross body is outside, the inner equipment is all of this. This is what Atman takes with it when Atman leaves the gross body. And the last is the causal body. Now, here's the fascinating part. When the phone instead of an iPad,
Yeah.
but since we were having technical difficulties, I had to use my phone. Can you
Well,
still hear me, Lou?
yes, I can. We're all good.
Can you still hear me, Lou?
Yes, I can.
Hello?
Yes,
Can
I
you hear
can.
me? Okay,
Yes.
good. Sorry. So, causal body is the stock of all the impressions we have of all our previous life forms. So, it's known in Sanskrit as the Karan Sharir. The Karan means the reason that we have this body. It has the vasanas from previous lives, of thoughts, the desires. All of this is part of the causal body. At our death, only the gross body dies and just drops. The subtle and the causal bodies are carried by the Atman from that gross body to the next gross body. The In the seventh verse, Krishna said, the Atman draws to itself the sense organs that have as their sixth organ the mind. The sense organs and the organs of action are really powerless without the mind. The mind has to be there. If your mind is not cognizant of what's going on, even though the sense organ, let's say my ear, is listening and my wife is yelling to me, and I'm so engrossed in my whatever I'm doing, she says, "What are you, deaf? Can't you hear me?" But my mind was not tuned in. So even though the ears were hearing, because of the absence of the mind, I couldn't hear her, right? By the way, that never happens. But
Sure.
um, so the mind has to be present. The sense organs depend on the mind in order to be able to function.
And the sense organs take in a lot more stimulus than we are aware of because our mind only focuses on the percentage of it that it thinks is important.
Very true, very true. But as you saw from our earliest episodes of psychiatry, when I talked about hypnosis, people would swear they never saw a license plate or something
Right.
like that. But under hypnosis, it would come out, even a license plate number. So yes, the sense organs pick up things, but if the mind doesn't register it, it doesn't help. So the individual jiva, I, you, is both a karta and a bhokta, as I said before. The karta is the doer, and the bhokta is the experiencer. These are done, the enjoyments of the sense organs and whatever they get as the enjoyer, and the organs of action do. The status of a jiva is essentially an add-on to the atma. This is, let's hope you understand this. The Atma is the generating force that gives life. The total combination of everything else that we talked about is the Jiva. The Jiva is an add on to the real generating force of life, which is the Atman. So the Jiva never dies because it's really not an entity. The entity is the Atman. So when the Jiva is dropped, it is just the condition of the Atman that is dropped. So that may be a little confusing. Only the condition of being the jiva is given up because it's added on to the Atman. That goes away. What leaves is the Atma and the subtle body and the causal body. And the sense organs need the mind, so the mind goes along with it. The five senses cannot function without the mind. So you may say, well, what exactly does the subtle body and causal body look like? What does the Atman look like? What does a dream look like? If I said to you, well, you had a dream, What exactly did it look like? Nobody knows. It is as subtle as that. The dream is real. You think about it, you look at it, you say, yes, I had a dream, no doubt about it. It was very, very vivid in my mind. What was it? How does it present itself? Nobody knows. If I said to you, close your eyes, imagine XYZ, I put you in a state of hypnosis and I ask you to think about certain things, you will be feeling as if you're really there. And yet, if I open your eyes and you open your eyes and I say, what exactly was it? Where was it? Show me what it looked like. You can't tell me. Similarly, that's why it's called the subtle body. The vasanas, the thoughts, the desires have no shape. What are thoughts? What shape are our thoughts or desires? Nobody has any description of that. The last thing Krishna says in this verse is that the wind, just like the wind carries a scent from the origin along with it to another place. So if there's a field where there's lots of flowers, I had gone once to Holland.
Mm-hmm.
By chance, I went there when it was springtime. I had no idea. And I asked the guy in the hotel, what can I do? And he says, oh, rent a car, go out to the countryside. This is a beautiful time. It's sunny and nice, and you can see all the spring flowers. And as I drove out there, the most beautiful sight one could ever see is fields just from right up to the horizon of beautiful flowers, and the smell, the fragrance of those flowers everywhere. Just unbelievable.
Hmm.
Now, the wind itself, as it blows over these flowers, carries with it the scent of the flowers. The wind has absolutely no quality of scent in it, but it's just carrying it. Can you see it? No. You cannot see the fragrance that it is carrying. Can you see the wind? No. But similarly, the Atman cannot be seen, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. The subtle body and the causal body that it carries cannot be seen, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So the wind itself is free of scent, it only carries it. The Atman itself is free of the qualities of the causal and subtle bodies, though it may appear as if the Atman has the same qualities as the subtle and causal bodies. Just like it appears as if the wind smells so nice. It's not the wind that's smelling, it's the scent that the wind is carrying.
Right.
So the thoughts, emotions, fears, jealousy, pride, drive, ambition, etc., that we carried in our previous lives all come back. And you've seen this in children when they're very, very young. Two twins or triplets, each one has its own ambitions, drives, characteristics, and you say these are zygotically similar. Exactly. Why are they so different? And that's because they're different causal bodies in it. So that is chapter 8. Wait, there was something else I wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
That consciousness is the substratum of every experience. So although we think in terms of Atman and Brahman and our what in English is called soul, which is an incorrect term, consciousness itself is God. That's the Brahman, that's the Atman. And we can talk about that. But here, I don't want you to get mistakenly feel that when I say the Atman leaves the body or the Atman drops the gross body, that it is like an entity. It is essentially consciousness. And what we're talking about through all of this is the consciousness. When somebody's calling my name or telling me what to do, if I'm not aware of it, we talk about the mind not being aware of it, but really it is consciousness. It is God, the God within me. So,
Can you drill down a little bit the definition or the defining line between Atman and Brahman in this point? Because I feel this is a critical point.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a common question that people ask. It is just the quantity that is referred to in Atman and Brahman. Brahman is the entire force that is the full totality of all of this is Brahman. When Brahman enters a body, that little piece, that spark of Brahman within us is known colloquially as Atman, but it's really the same.
Right.
So Brahman is the totality of Atman everywhere in the universe, all over it. Brahman is omnipresent, but when it is inside me, I say Brahman is inside me. That Brahman inside me, I call Atman. Does that make it clear?
Yes. In this case, though, the Atman is carrying the subtle and causal bodies
Right.
with it, right? So is it the same part of Brahman when it goes to another person, to another gross body?
Yes. The
Yeah. Okay.
same,
So they
same,
travel as a package,
they travel as a package, correct.
which is why you kept referring to it as the Atman here, because it's a specific part of the Brahman
Right.
that's carrying this on to the next life. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you know it's an important distinction that you bring up, because people may say, okay, then this Atman that has left this body and gone to the next has a particular characteristic. No, it
Right.
doesn't. It's the causal mind and the subtle mind, so a subtle body and the causal body, that have a particular quality, not the Atman. So if you dissect it out, which you can't, but if you were to dissect it out, that piece of Atman is no different from any other part of the Atman. It's like electricity, right?
Right.
Electricity coming through anything. Electricity itself has no differentiating, even though a small part of electricity goes inside a light bulb, another small part goes into an ice maker, and they come out with different results, but the electricity is always the same.
Right.
But you cannot tell the difference. The Atman and different parts of Atman all are the same. It's the causal minds and causal bodies and subtle bodies that are different.
Excellent.
So the wind doesn't have scent. The Atman, the wind just carries scent from one place to another. The wind is not scented. The Atman carries the subtle bodies and causal bodies from one gross body to another, gross body to another. The mind, intellect, senses, chitta, ahankar, all of that is carried by the Atman. The Atman is not tainted or in any way shaped by it. So the desires that you bring with you from your previous life, what increases the desires is your indulgence in it. Keep that in mind.
Yes.
What increases the desires is your indulgence in those desires, or mental indulgence, or actually carrying out the point where you get it. Once you get that out of your system by indulging, you may say, okay, I get it out of my system. No, it actually comes back worse. Because when I first came to this country, I remember I was in my very early 20s, 21, 22, and the typical thing was, you are number one. I think that was the saying at that time. You are number one. Everything else, heck with them.
Yeah.
And it was a new way of thinking for me, because we were always taught that everybody else is number one, put them first.
Right.
And for a while, I started practicing that I am number one, heck with everybody else. And I found that the more you indulge that, whether it be desires or saying putting myself above everything and everybody else, the desires came back worse.
Right.
So the last thing I want to say about this verse 8 is that when the sense organs, the subtle body and causal body, enter a new gross body, a child that is born has surprisingly the same taste. Some little kids say, yep, I don't like this. I don't like sour. I like sweet, or I like spice. I love spice. And this, in a set of twins, you'll see one likes one and one likes the other. And the same tastes, same desires, same likes, same dislikes, same thoughts, same vasanas are carried over. They don't show themselves very clearly right in the beginning, but after the age of 13 or so, when a child is an adolescent, they show themselves very, very clearly. These likes, dislikes, raga, dvesha, and all of these other characteristics. So friends, that's verse number 8. Let's go to verse number 9. Presiding over the ear, eye, skin, tongue, nose, and also the mind, presiding over these sense organs, this being, with a capital B, enjoys the sense objects. It's pretty much clear what he's saying here, and that is that this being refers to Brahman, or a part of Brahman that's inside you, the Atman, and that Atman presides like a king, like a president, over all the sense organs. And by presiding over it, this being enjoys the sense objects. The important word here is presiding, like a president or a king. Now, if you are a king, if you're Alexander or the president of the United States, you don't have to lift a finger for anything, right? You drop something on the floor. If you're a king, not just of if you're a king, president, people run and pick it up for you. You don't have to pick it up. Anything that you want done, you just have to say that you want it done, and other people will do it for you. You don't have to do it yourself. You don't have to do anything. I believe in the monarchy in Great Britain, they don't even carry money. They're not allowed to even touch money or anything.
Yeah.
So the Atman is the eye of the eye. It is the part of the eye that makes the eye see, the Atman. The ear of the ear. This is coming directly from the Upanishads. The eye of the eye, the ear of the ear, etc. And the Atman is the Lord behind all the senses. Atman is also the subject who is presiding over, the king over the mind. In the new life form, when it takes a new gross body, the sense objects are enjoyed, as we said before, exactly as they were in the previous life. The Atman is neutral. You believe that in your mind, you say, God, please help me. Please don't punish me. I did something bad. God doesn't help you or punish you. The Atman is neutral. The Atman is the king. The king doesn't do anything except, but in his presence, everybody else works. The sense organs work, the organs of actions work, the mind works, the chitta works, the memory works, ahankar works, but the Atman doesn't do anything. He's like the king, just making it. You make the decisions, you take the actions, you get the rewards, and you get the punishments. Electricity doesn't make ice in an ice maker. The ice maker makes it. The electricity only gives it the force, the energy. Electricity does not light up a bulb. The bulb lights up, but without the electricity, it wouldn't. Electricity is like the king. Similarly, Atman is like that. So it says, eyes, ears, touch, smell, all the sense organs, seated in this as a president, and also in the mind, the jiva, us as an individual, combination of Prakriti and Purusha, experiences the objects of the senses. The minimum in the second, this experience is experience, the intellect is chitta and memory, etc., and that's additional. So at the very least, it experiences the senses, and the mind and intellect is separate. So it's a very simple verse. I don't know that we need to beat it out anymore. But basically it's saying that because of the Atman, the sense organs, which it carried over from the previous life, and the causal body and subtle body works because of that.
Right.
So that's verse 8, verse 9, and hopefully you'll join us next time to go into 10 and 11, and we'll see you then. Thank you very much.